Hello everyone, and it's been a few months since I made a video now. Not that many, if any of you will have cared, considering the very small amount of views I had. But they stopped for a number of reasons. Partly because, you know, the Christmas break started, so I was at university less. In fact, I wasn't at university at all for like 3 weeks. I went back home to the family home for Christmas, and there was nowhere to record such things in private there. But let's talk about the things that have changed in my life since the last time I spoke to you. You may remember that there was a sort of on and off girl in my life. Well, that is gone. It's way in the past now. I'm okay with that. It was difficult to do, but we decided it was better for both of us if we just, stopped communicating. And over the last couple of months, we haven't really communicated. There's been a couple of text messages, a couple of comments on Tumblr, but that's it. And I am okay with that. She's in the past now. I'm over her, and I know she's well over me. Not that I ever think she was ever really into me, but anyway. So at the moment, there's nobody else in my life. But she hasn't been replaced by anybody else. Um, you know, I went through a phase where I was in relationships solidly. I've only had 3 serious relationships, and I went from one to the other with very little time in between. Um, apart from this girl I used to speak about, and a couple of others that I kind of was seeing. I've been single now for almost 2 years. Um, that's It's just because nobody else has ever really come into my life that I wanted to be with. That's just the way it is, Still hoping that somebody that I want to be with will come into my life. Let's see. Related to the subject, my dad has been taking more of an interest in my personal life. When I was home over the Christmas period, he was asking me if I was seeing anybody, and I said no. He said, there must have been people, and I was like, well, yeah, it's a little bit different from my day, from his day. In his day, because my dad is what 73, he'll be 74 in May, and he married my mother in 1968. He was born in the late 30s. He grew up in the 40s, 50s. Hit his peak in the 60s, if you like. So it was a different time back then. Although 60s was a decade of love, supposedly. I don't think he was really much into that kind of scene. He was more of a traditionalist. So when you were with somebody, you kind of stayed with them. You didn't really play the field as much as we tend to do now. And he kept pushing me and pushing me. So I was like, well, so what do you want me to tell you, Dad? Do you want me to tell you about when I went to the Lower Than Atlantis gig and I had a girl all over me? Like literally during Lower Than Atlantis' set, this girl pretty much sexually assaulted me. Now I'm not going to complain because she was an attractive girl, but I'm not used to women being that forward. I'm not entirely keen on it, if I'm honest. I tend to prefer more of a shy girl that I have to sort of coax that side out. Um, it was what it was. It was a bit of fun. Yes, it was fun. That was a good night, actually. I was quite successful that night. But other than that, there hasn't really been anybody else. I'm not keen on my dad asking me though. Like, he's been my father all my life, obviously. He's never taken an interest before. But I think he said it's because he'd noticed that I'd been single for quite a long time now. Because he'd always been used to knowing of my girlfriends and things. So, whatever. I'm quite happy with things as they are at the moment. Obviously I get lonely, of course I do. But that's always been the case. Even when I've been in relationships, they've tended to be quite long distance. So I'm just used to being lonely now. I don't like it, but I'm used to it, so I kind of just make do. But I'm back at university properly now. Last time we spoke, I was kind of on not a break as much. I had a very free semester where I had just one research project to do, and I had the whole semester to do it. All of our taught sessions are right at the beginning of the semester. Back to lectures now during the week, and we have a massive workload on between now and the end of May. I haven't made a start yet, but then quite a few people haven't, so I'm not overly worried. I'm a fast worker when I get going, so I'll get there. So yeah, it's good to be back at university. Good to be actually have meaning to get up in the morning. Still struggling with my sleeping pattern, but I have for well over a decade now, so that's not going to change anytime soon. Not without medication, and I've always refused medication. So that's not going to happen. So, yeah, it's nice to be back at university, back seeing friends, back out drinking again properly. Like, I was drinking a lot over Christmas. I mean, a lot over the Christmas break. We had 3 weeks off, and there was only 3 days in that whole time that I didn't excessively drink. I'm talking excessively. Like, even if it was a case of sitting in my room on my own drinking, I was drinking every single day, which is not good. I know. I've always had a tendency to be over-reliant on alcohol, which again is not something I'm proud of. Why is that being stupid? I don't know if that's still recording or not. Anyway, I'll find out afterwards. So yeah, I've always had a tendency to sort of I'll go through phases where I'll be really unhappy, and rather than dealing with it properly, I'll rely on drink. I did it after my mother died. I did it when I was desperately unhappy at university the first time. I did it back in April after the whole fiasco on placement. I did it over Christmas, First girl that had come along in several years that I actually cared about. I said goodbye to, and I was desperately lonely anyway. I wasn't happy with my life, so I turned to drink again. I've always been able to stop, so I've never been worried. But I'm getting to the point now where I'll drink maybe once a week now. But when I drink, I won't drink 6 or 7 days a week. I'll just drink them once, and I'll make it count. I don't know. Alcohol and I have always had this weird relationship. I can go months without drinking, sometimes, and then I'll go through phases where I'll drink every day, and then I'll just go through phases where I'll just drink once a week. I do love alcohol. I'll never stop drinking. It's just a case of when I drink. But there we go. To be honest, my life is still quite dull. It's just university at the moment. I'm sitting around on my bed. I've grown very attached to my bed. I think I've said before in past videos that I don't like double beds in general. Even when I've been sharing a bed with someone, I haven't really liked a double bed. I'm kind of getting used to it now, and it's kind of my best friend. I spend a lot of time in my room now, but that's fine. The beard's still around. It doesn't show up very well on the webcam. It shows up in pictures. but not if I take them on the webcam. And it shows, people see it in real life. It doesn't show it very well on the webcam. I keep it very trim because it grows very unevenly when it's all over the place. It just looks stupid. So I've been keeping it trim, and I'm thinking about going really short with the hair. I've had my hair cut quite a few times. Normally I'd go 6 months without getting a haircut, but I started having it cut more regularly and shorter than usual. I'm thinking about going really quite short now. I think it's time to grow up and get a more adult-looking haircut. I always said that when I started growing facial hair, that would be the way that I went. I'm not sure. I think I would regret it. But the good thing about hair is that it grows. So even if I did regret it, I wouldn't regret it for too long. So my hair grows quite quickly. So I don't know. What do you think? Should I go for a shortcut? Yeah, something for you to think about. Or not. I know you probably don't care. I don't really care that much, to be honest. But that's it. I am still searching for the perfect redhead. I don't necessarily think she exists, but we'll see. Oh, actually, there was a girl on campus that I saw. Like, what'll happen is, if there's a girl that I tend to really fall for, she'll come into my life and I'll see her, and I'll just instantly fall for her. Like that power of lust will just take over. Oh. And that hit me with this girl on campus the other week. I was with the girls, we were in the library, and this girl walked up to the printer, and I saw her, and that was it, I was hooked. I felt a bit stalkerish, and because I've got really bad eyesight, and I wasn't wearing my glasses, I wasn't entirely sure if she was as attractive as I thought she was or not. So I decided to follow her back to where she was sat, just to get a better look at her. And yeah, she was absolutely adorable. She wasn't a redhead. Like, I always said that I wouldn't go with anybody that wasn't a redhead now, because I've compromised too much in the past. There was just something about her. The thing is, I haven't seen her on campus since then, and I haven't seen her out either since then. Or if I have, I've been too drunk to remember. But I don't think I have. So yeah, hopefully I'll get an opportunity to see her again, maybe speak to her. The girls were like, well, why don't you go over and talk to her? I'm like, because she was working in the library. What kind of excuse could I have used to go up and talk to her? It wasn't obviously going to be me hitting on her. And girls don't want to be hit on in the library. They don't want to be hit on, most of the time, they don't want to be hit on by me full stop. But they certainly don't want to be hit on by anybody in the library. So, we'll see. Anyway, I've kept you long enough now. I've got this new video editing equipment now I've acquired, so I may edit this down, which means you may not even see this what I'm talking about. But we'll see. I may just keep it. I quite like the fact that it's always been quite real before and I haven't edited it, so I might just leave it that way. Anyway, thanks for watching all the way to the end if you have. Always leave comments, but even if you just tell me to fuck off, I'm quite happy with that. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. If you want to hear about more specific things, send me requests. I'll talk about anything. That's true. I will. So there we go. I'll sign off now, and I'll leave you to it. And stay awesome. I know that I will. See you later.